should really be a huge story. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker, and this is nothing against the fine people of Midlothian, but did you know that the guy living down the street from you was a pro-ISIS guy? Did you know that he was studying how to make bombs? Did you know that? Let me just give you the whole story here. This is ugly. This comes from the National Desk.
And new this morning, the FBI says it arrested a man in Texas accused of trying to provide material to support a terrorist organization. John Michael Garza Jr. is being charged in federal court. Here is part of the statement from FBI Director Kash Patel. The suspect allegedly shared ISIS propaganda, sent cryptocurrency believing it would fund terrorist activity, and attempted to deliver materials intended for explosive devices. Now, according to court documents, Garza met with someone who he thought was connected to ISIS, but in reality was an undercover FBI agent. During that meeting, he described how to mix components and offered to send some sort of instructional video on how to build a bomb. Now, agents were first tipped off about Garza back in October. That's when things started to go down, when NYPD told them he was following several pro-ISIS accounts online. Here's where he shared officials' ISIS media releases and started sending small amounts of cryptocurrency, believing it would go to support these terrorist groups. Now, the 21-year-old is back in court later today.
Wow. Okay. So let's break some of this down, because I first saw this on Dallas Express, and we're going to have the guy who wrote the column, Logan Washburn, is going to join us in the next segment. But we have a guy here who is pro-ISIS. Now, he doesn't sound like he's pro-ISIS. When he was engaged by the New York Police Department, there was some guy on social media just looking stuff up. He described himself as a 21-year-old Mexican-American living in Texas. He said he ascribed to the ISIS ideology, and he was first noticed because this NYPD task force was looking at ISIS accounts and going through and seeing who else following these people that's American, who else following these people that has a regular, just normal American name. And so John Michael Garza Jr., geez, that sounds pretty American, if I do say so myself. I like pointing out a few things in this case that I wish regular media outlets would point out, but here we go. Number one, was this white rural rage? No. John Michael Garza, he's a Mexican-American. Is he here legally? What's his immigration status? Do we know that? They didn't put it in the... No, I imagine if his name's John Michael Garza and he describes himself as Mexican-American, he's like what a lot of us are here in Texas. He's probably a mix. We're, a lot of us are mutts of some sort. Like, I have 4 grandparents. 3 of them are white, 1 of them's Hispanic. So he could be someone in my family. But if he ascribes to the ISIS ideology, wouldn't that necessarily mean he's converted to Islam? Was John Michael Garza making any bombs, trying to make any bombs when he was a Christian, or whatever he was before he converted, when he was atheist or whatnot? I am always floored by how many of these guys that get rolled up in these domestic terror attacks are recent converts to Islam. Isn't that strange? Because go through your memory banks. You have a little file cabinet up in your head. I want you to just run your fingers through the files. Tell me about the guy who converted from Islam to Christianity who did a terror attack. Has that happened? Does that happen all the time? Every day? Every week? Every month? Every year? Ever? Seriously, in your entire life, do you know the story of a guy that converted from Islam to Christianity and committed a terror attack? Because I can point you to about 20 of the opposite. Something is going on. Something is going on with this ideology. I dare call it a religion. And I'm not smearing all Muslims. But when it keeps happening over and over and over, you got to start questioning it. And the perfect metaphor for this, if we had a bunch of people that were doing terror attacks, that were shooting up the Pulse nightclub or running cars through Christmas parades or shooting up the Muhammad cartoon contest or trying to make bombs, buying bomb making material from the FBI, sending money to ISIS. If we had this many people that were doing that but saying roll tide, we would be asking questions about the fan base of Alabama. That's all I'm doing here. For some people, it just feels icky. It feels ugly. It's like, oh, he's being racist, or oh, he's being Islamophobic. Or, no, this is a legitimate question. If it keeps happening over and over and over in one direction, but not in the other direction, then there's not a problem with converts or just religion as a whole. It just happens to be converts to this one religion. Do you know anybody that converted to Mormonism that turned around and started getting bomb-making materials from undercover agents, the FBI? You ever heard of a Lutheran with a grudge who's sending money to terrorist organizations overseas? It keeps happening over and over and over, and we're scared to ask questions about it because you know that some people are going to call you terrible names. That's why all the Somali fraud has been running rampant for so long. Just face it. People don't want to go out and criticize it because they don't want to look like they're mean to immigrants or they're mean to non-white people or they're just mean, period. Your empathy in a situation like this is suicidal. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Now, this is interesting also in the fact that this was a pretty quick timeline here. He was discovered in mid-October, according to the press release, by the New York Police Department. And it didn't take him very long. He's only 21 years old. Didn't take him very long to go through and do some things, sending money to what he thought was ISIS, trying to buy bomb-making materials from an FBI special agent. But that special agent interaction, that just happened December 22nd, according to Logan Washburn's report on the Dallas Express. So this was just a week ago. Didn't we just have an Afghan guy that was arrested not even a month ago for wanting to bomb something in Fort Worth? We didn't ever figure out what that was, or at least get reported to us what it was. How many terror attacks have to be thwarted before we start asking some real questions? Like, hey, this keeps happening over and over and over. Maybe we should reevaluate how many of these people we're bringing here, or if we should allow it to flourish and have Islamic cities and their own little Sharia courts and their own little systems, their own little neighborhoods and their own little epic city, or the Meadows, as they're calling it now. Because it's not sounding like it's working out pretty good. But the real tough part about this isn't even a guy we brought over here from the Middle East. This is a guy that converted. His name's John Michael Garza. So even if we do stop all those people from coming over here from the Middle East, actual terrorists themselves, we have a problem with converts in our own midst. Logan Washburn from the Dallas Express has more on this story. The Midlothian bombing suspect arrested last week. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. ISIS in Midlothian. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP, your home for Mark Lee Van Camp and Robbins. They're going to get special credit later in the show because they. I heard a soundbite for the first time on their show, and you'll hear it later. But I want to talk about the what do we know about this 21-year-old suspect that was arrested in Midlothian for being ICE sympathetic and getting a little too interested in making bombs. The guy who wrote the article that first tipped me off on this story, Logan Washburn, is with us from the Dallas Express. You can find him at dallasexpress.com or their handy-dandy mobile app. Hey, Logan, how did you find out about this story, first of all? Okay, so I noticed that you said he's from Midlothian. Now, he's living there currently. Do we know where he's from, where he was born? Right. Which his name's John Michael Garza. That sounds pretty American to me. So, what do we know about his association or his fealty to ISIS? Is he a Muslim convert? Is his family Muslim? Is he a recent convert? Do we know? Is he part of any groups around here? Do we know? So I think it's a hell of a coincidence that we had two near misses with bombing suspects in the last month. Is the reason I asked if he was part of a group, because that's, I mean, there's a whole lot of lone wolves out there for it to still be a lone wolf. All right, Logan Washburn, DallasExpress.com. Appreciate your story. I saw it first with you, and I'm starting to see it now today from other outlets, but you beat them to it. Good job. All right, so there it is. 21-year-old charged with international terrorism. And the international part goes because he was sending money to what he thought was terrorists overseas. There are people here who at 21 years old think, I'm going to take part of my hard-earned money, convert it to crypto. I'm going to send it to terrorists overseas. What is going on? When you were 21 years old, were you that excited about anything? I was really into sports. I was really into music. I was going to concerts. I was going. Never, never would I have imagined this is what my fellow 21-year-olds were doing. And I know this is a rare case. This isn't the norm for a 21-year-old. But this is what that ideology, this is what that worldview does. If your worldview causes you at 21 years old to not take money and put it toward your college education, to not make money and put it toward you starting your own business, or even a Honda Civic, you might want to question that ideology. It's the same like banging your head on the wall feeling you get when you hear about all the young people that are rolled up in these Antifa terror cells like the ones that shot up the Alvarado ICE facility. There's like 9 people that participated in that and a few more that got rolled up after the fact. If your worldview has you spending your weekends making attacks on law enforcement when you're in your early 20s, there's something wrong with your worldview, because not all worldviews do that. Isn't it weird that we don't have any bombing suspects in a MAGA hat? I'll give you an update about the pipe bombing suspect next. But that's another one. I wish it would get more attention. It's not gonna. It doesn't help the narrative at all. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, yes, we did learn a little bit more about the motives behind the January 6th pipe bomber, or attempted pipe bomber in D.C. The guy that planted the pipe bomb outside both the Republican and Democrat headquarters in D.C. on January 5th. What was his motive? You'll hear a little bit of an explanation next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. The D.C. pipe bomb suspect appears in court today. It's the James Show, News Talk 829 33 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. A couple of reports on this. The first one comes from ABC News. This was their report last night.
Mary, good morning. Some answers here after a 5-year mystery. For the first time, prosecutors detailing the lengthy confession they say Brian Cole gave after his arrest earlier this month, allegedly admitting to placing those pipe bombs outside the RNC and DNC on January 6th. But the big question has always been why. Well, while he has not yet entered a plea, prosecutors say during his confession, Cole seemed to reference some of President Trump's false claims of fraud in the 2020 election, saying he felt, quote, like something was wrong, adding that people who felt that their votes are just being thrown away were being ignored by officials on both sides. Soon, Cole allegedly telling investigators, quote, something just snapped. According to the court filing, he allegedly said he wanted to do something to the parties because, quote, they were in charge. Still, Cole allegedly saying he isn't an openly political person and denied that he was targeting Congress as it was certifying President Joe Biden's win. In fact, prosecutors say when asked why he targeted both headquarters, he said, I really don't like either party at this point, noting his idea came from his interest in history and a conflict in Ireland. And while Cole said he placed those bombs at night to actually prevent any deaths, according to the filing, prosecutors claiming otherwise, saying his actions, quote, risk the lives not only of innocent pedestrians and office workers, but also of law enforcement, first responders, and national political leaders. Malika.
Notice how she said he echoed Trump's concerns about the integrity of the 2020 election. Yeah, you got to get that out there. And then a minute later, at the very end of the report, you'll say he says that he's not on either team. He hates both parties. Dastardly reporting, ABC News. But this guy seems to be, I don't want to say apolitical because I don't know. It's kind of like me. Like, I'm not apolitical. I have very strong political opinions. I just don't like either party. I don't call myself a Democrat or a Republican. I would never send money to either one of these parties. Neither one of them, anyway, govern the way I prefer. But here is a more recent update. This comes from CBS News about an hour ago.
Investigators, according to our CBS News reporting and some court documents, have said that Cole did believe in some of the conspiracies surrounding the 2020 election, but was not directly targeting either political party, more so making a stance against both, according to his confession. His legal team are saying that he's partly on the autism spectrum and has OCD in addition to some other issues, and that they're willing for him to potentially be detained at home during trial under supervision of his family members who he lives with. But federal prosecutors have argued that he would be a threat to the community if he were to be released. And there are just a lot of details that we don't know. It specifically read whether there's more of a motive than has previously been let on in court filings, and what else the Department of Justice knows about what concrete steps Cole took to plant and implement these bombs. Looked like, according to court filings by the Department of Justice, that he cleared his phone a number of times and had tried to get rid of a lot of the bomb-making equipment that he had. But then after planting these bombs in the end of January of 2021, went to go purchase more materials. Investigators say he didn't talk to anyone about this plot. Again, just a number of abnormalities about this behavior leading up to and after allegedly planting these bombs, and whether he fully worked alone. These are all outstanding questions. We could hear some more answers today on.
All right. So that was Jake Rosen from CBS News. And there's not just questions about what happened on January 5th and then January 6th in the follow-up and what happened in the days after that. Another question is, well, what happened for 4 years? If they could track this guy down in just a few months because they paid attention to it and tried, why didn't they try for 4 years? Isn't that a little weird? Isn't that a little weird how in the aftermath of January 6th, they had the manpower to go track down hundreds of January 6th protesters, most of whom didn't commit any crimes. They just walked through Statuary Hall, didn't even knock over the velvet ropes, didn't spray paint anything, didn't set anything on fire. You had time and manpower and the resources and the courts all to, and we've talked to a lot of them on the show, to chase down all of these people. There's a local guy, Larry Brock, retired Air Force veteran. All he did was walk through an open door, past the cop who waved at him. That's all he did. He walked around for a little bit. He looked around. He left. He came home. They came and tracked him down. And it's not that he signed some sort of registry when he walked into the Capitol building. They used the evidence they had. They took cell phone records. They took the camera surveillance footage. And then they were pacing together, who are all these people? And they went and they found as many as they possibly could from January 6th. People who did absolutely nothing but walk through the Capitol, they went and found him. But the guy who planted 2 pipe bombs, they didn't chase this guy down? What the hell is going on? I realize that any power you give politicians, especially in D.C. or Austin, on a long enough time scale, it's going to be abused for political purposes. But when you're investigating the crimes of January 6th, you're even selective within that event. That's wild. Another thing they left out, both ABC and CBS in their reports and their updates, while they're trying to tell you as much as they know about the guy, they left out something else. No, it's not important. No, I don't care. No, you don't care. But they left out the guy's race. Did you know he's a black guy? Through all of this, are you just now finding that out? Why is that? And you know why that is. I mean, that's a rhetorical question. If they told you he was a black guy, that would separate people's thought from, well, this is probably a MAGA guy. This was a guy he's a Trumpian and he loves Trump. Really? Doesn't seem very possible. I mean, it's possible, not probable. How's that? But media, why didn't you mention the race? The race is so important in so many of these other stories. You put it in the headline. Even if race wasn't a factor in the event that happened. If it fits the narrative, it gets put in there. Check this out.
Images now circulating on social media of a black man dying after being shot by a white police officer.
The Justice Department is investigating the death of Alton Sterling, a black man shot to death by a white police officer outside a convenience store.
In the past 48 hours, 2 more American cities have been convulsed by the fatal shootings of African-American men by white police officers.
Well, what about this one? Race isn't important here? Why not? That's so weird. It was really important when Kavanaugh was having his hearings.
Once again, it will be all white men on the Republican side of the Judiciary Committee questioning both Judge Kavanaugh and Dr. Ford.
The Republicans that are on the Judiciary Committee, it is a lineup of white guys over the age of 50.
All the white men on the Senate Judiciary Committee.
You've got all white men on the Republican side here.
On the Republican side, all 11 are white men. The Republicans on the Senate Judiciary Committee, it's 11 white men. And the Republicans, it is 11 white men. The Republicans, it happens to be 11 white men.
Are these white Republican men essentially going to...
this goes on for another 30 seconds or so. But the point there isn't that, I'm so outraged, everyone's racist against me or whatever. I'm not a victim here. I'm not crying. I'm not whining. I'm just pointing out the blatant hypocrisy. And listen, media outlets, is it important or not? Either report it in all of these stories or in none of these stories. But if you only do it in the ones that fit the narrative, if you only do it in the ones that make people like me look bad and ignore it when it exonerates people like me or make people who don't look like me look bad, well, then you're just a trash reporter. You're a terrible media outlet. You're dishonest. You're a fraud. You're not news. You're propaganda masquerading as news. And why would they do that? Well, propaganda is more effective when the people observing it don't know it's propaganda. When they think they're actually listening to a journalist and when they think they're actually getting news, they don't have their defenses up as the same as if it came from an Al Gore or a Jasmine Crockett or whoever the Democrat national chairman is right now. I don't even know who it is. But there it is. Just another lie by omission. And this is about the DC pipe bomber. Did they tell you the race of the guy that was just arrested in Midlothian for making bombs on behalf of ISIS? Mr. Garza? No, left it out of there too. They tell you the race of the people who shot up the Alvarado ICE facility a couple of months ago? I guess 3-4 months ago? No? Huh. That's so weird how it's so important in some of these stories, but in other stories, we don't even know. What is a race? Why would I identify people by their race? Coming up next, Dr. Bo Kabbalah. Trump calls for the release of Epstein files naming Democrats. He wants to embarrass them, but will it actually happen? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. So we're going to get the Epstein files or not? It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP, your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. And my next guest from Tarleton State University, Dr. Bo Kabbalah. Trump has called for the release of any Epstein files naming Democrats. I mean, are we actually going to get this thing ever, or are they still playing games with us? So if he's calling for the release of any Epstein files naming Democrats, I mean, how does that work? Well, Dr. Bo, the deadline for them to release all that info was what, last Friday or the Friday before last? And we still haven't gotten it all? All right. Take your expert hat off. Take that doctor off from in front of your name. Let me just talk to Bo. What do you think, as just a regular dude, what do you think is going on? Dr. Bo Kabbalah, Tarleton State University, national security interests. Explain that. Now that's interesting, Dr. Bokabala, because you went the financing route. I thought you were going to say that the CIA was taking advantage of this to capture and blackmail assets. All right. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Bokabala, Tarleton State University, poli-sci professor. Appreciate it, sir. Coming up next, updates on the Somali fraud scandals. That's kind of expanding beyond Minnesota to other states. But now the reaction to the scandal is funnier than the scandal itself, and you'll hear it all coming up on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, this Somali fraud story just keeps getting better. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Some of you who are listening to the Casey Bartholomew shift this morning probably heard me playing some of this audio. I got to fill in for the second half of the show this morning. Coming up in the next segment, Joe Pags, the guy who's on after Mark Levin here on WBAP, is going to be joining me. So we've got a full show here, but for those of you who didn't hear it, which I think about 85% of you didn't, the new info on this Leering Center, I just love calling it that, it just keeps getting worse and worse. Because what, I don't know, maybe if you haven't been paying attention to the news in the last 48 hours, there's a guy, Nick Shirley, who went around to all these Somali daycares in the Minneapolis area and showed you that there's no kids here, that there's no way to sign up for kids. There's the windows are blacked out. There's no cars in the parking lot. What about this autism center? What about this home health care center? What about this medical mobility center? And so he just went through and just showed you, so you with your own eyes can see the grift happening right in front of your face. Lou Ragoose is a local reporter on one of the TV stations in Minneapolis. Check this out. His summary was fantastic.
Everyone seems to be talking about the viral video by YouTuber Nick Shirley visiting Somali-run daycares in Minnesota that receive millions in taxpayer money and showing a lack of kids present. Well, I have a strange twist for you. The daycare that's getting the most attention from Shirley's video is the Quality Learning Center, misspelled as Quality Luring Center. While answering questions today, the state commissioner in charge of licensing daycares claimed that the Quality Learning Center permanently closed 1 week ago, which would have been before Shirley filmed his video. Listen.
I will share that our team was notified that Quality Learning Center closed just over a week ago, and I think we're around space concerns, and that's what was shared.
But after that press conference, we went back to the Quality Learning Center, and vans were dropping off dozens of children. Parents and a manager told us the daycare is open and is legitimate. We saw state inspectors leaving, and we hope to find out by the end of the week if they made any new findings. I'm Lou Ragoose.
So that is so strange. When the video came out over the weekend, one of the things that I think you and I have both learned to anticipate is, how are they going to spin this? How on earth can you respond to this? And so you heard a couple of excuses, but now they're not matching up. Because one of the excuses was, well, no, that daycare was closed a week ago. Another excuse was, oh, no, that daycare, it opens at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah, that's why there's nobody here. That's the ticket. We are a 2 o'clock to 10 o'clock daycare center, which I guess is, again, possible, maybe not probable. Someone going to drop off a 4-year-old? I realize a lot of kids are in school till 2:33, 3:30, whatever. But your daycare, what about 4-year-olds? Oh, they're all in Head Start programs, I guess. But the son of the owner of the Leering Center came out a couple days ago and was trying to make the case. No, this daycare opens at 2.
What would you say to Nick Shirley, the YouTuber, if he was standing in front of you?
I have
right
nothing
now?
against him himself, but I do have something against the rhetoric. It's, if you're going to be a journalist, just have a moral compass. Like, do what you do correctly. If you catch business that are fraud, no one here is with that, or like, we don't support that as a community. I don't support that myself. I was born and raised here. I'm not for fraud. Like, the notion that, hey, a certain batch of Somalis got caught, so all of them support it, it's like, no one, if in any community, any mishaps that happen, the rest of the community obviously doesn't want that to happen. It's a stain on all of our names, as you guys can see. We don't want that to happen. We don't take part in it.
Yeah, why would the Somali community want this to happen? I mean, would it be worth stealing $9 billion if it ruins your reputation? What a lame excuse that is. We wouldn't want this to happen. Please, you can ruin my reputation for a lot less than that.
We don't like that. We don't want that in our communities. But just to say, hey,
hang on. Would you rather have the goodwill public relations image with the people of a foreign country, or would you rather have millions and millions of dollars? I mean, you personally, you the guy listening, what would you rather have? Millions and millions of dollars, or, oh, look, this other community doesn't think very highly of me? You'd rather have the money, right? So what a lame, sorry excuse that is.
Our company got caught, so they must all do it. and I feel like that's what he's doing. I'm not a fan.
2 to 10 p.m. may not be your typical daycare hours. So can you explain why it is that you operate during these hours?
For that is we're after school hours. So most of our clients, not most of our clients, all of our clients is after school hours. So schools earliest dismissal would be 2:15 to 2:30ish, and the latest dismissal would be up to like 4:30ish, 4:40ish. So that's when our kids come to us. We don't have anyone in the morning. We deal with only parents and clients that come to us after school. So that's why ours are 2 to 10 p.m. If we try to do, once again, I'd like to conclude the YouTuber that was making the claims, you were here earlier today. I came here at 1 o'clock. You were here. Where are you now? You claim we're closed. You claim we're a fraud. Where are you? Why are you not here right now? It's like you're trying to put out a certain message about a certain group. I'm not going to make that claim. I don't want to make that claim without me knowing him personally, but that's what it seems like he's doing from his front. Where are you right now? He was here earlier.
Yeah, that's it. Imply the race card. And let me get this straight. You're not a fraud because he's not on the property right now. Oh, he's making all these claims. Where are you right now? What does that matter? How does that prove anything? What if he was standing next to you and you'd be like, oh, well, I guess we are a fraud. So all of this was red herrings. All of this was straw men. Nobody believes that you're a daycare that's open from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. Do any daycares exist? And I kind of mean this rhetorically, and I kind of mean this literally. Do you know of a daycare? Is there a daycare in your town? Is there a daycare in DeSoto or in Keller or in Argyle or in Graham or in Greenville? Does anybody, have you ever even heard of a daycare that opens at 2 p.m.? Because I'm not the daycare master. I haven't been to all of them. I haven't done a whole lot of research on daycares. My kids never went to daycare. But it's just not believable that the daycare opens at 2 p.m. And that's why. Because the witnesses that they talked to in the Nick Shirley video says, I never see cars in this parking lot. They didn't say I never see cars in this parking lot before 2 p.m. And then all of a sudden, kids were bused there. So you have officials in the state of Minnesota saying that place had already been shut down. You have the guy who's the son of the owner saying, no, we just opened at 2. And then all of a sudden you have kids showing up yesterday before 2. It's all lies. Whatever the truth is, we know that is a lie. Coming up next on The James Show, special guest Joe Pags, host of The Joe Pags Show, which you hear right here on WBAP weekdays at 8 p.m. He's going to be on next to talk about the Somali fraud stories, the Trump, Zelensky, Putin meetings, and just how the media is pretending the economy is bad. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. We got a special guest, Joe Pags, on the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker, but the guy who comes on WBAP at 8 o'clock, he's on with us right now, number 7 on the Talkers Heavy 100 list, which we count in the talk radio world. That's like our AP top 25 is how we score it. So welcome back, Joe. It's been a while. Pretty good. Now, Joe, I want to start with the Somali fraud story here. Nick Shirley has had to go into hiding. He's not doing anything in public because he's had so many threats against his life and his safety at this point. I mean, that's kind of expected, but doesn't that tell you a whole lot about this story? Would there be death threats against him if he wasn't over the target? Well, the sad part is this guy's name. He's Nick Shirley. The totality of resources he had at his disposal was a phone, a Bluetooth microphone, and some guy named Dave with a bunch of printouts from public records requests. Like, that's all it took. And the sad part about it is he did it first. ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, M. Snow, Fox News. No one else actually sent a journalist to just go do the most basic investigation and go knock on a door. Well, we're talking with Joe Pags from the Joe Pags Show. You can hear him tonight on WBAP at 8 o'clock. The other story that I think must be going pretty good because it's not getting reported on is the talks between Trump, Ukraine, and Russia. You know, Ukraine gets all kinds of attention from the media when it's ugly, but the fact that they're ignoring it makes me think we could be close to a ceasefire. So one thing I like about this, though, is when you see a Nick Shirley go in and fill in the gaps that the regular media is not doing. I see a lot of other people on Twitter, X, whatever social media, get inspired to do the same thing. There's a lady here in Texas called Info Battle Maiden. You're down in San Antonio, so you're one of us. She says she put up a post yesterday, less than 5 minutes, and I've already found more than 32 million in SBA 7A loans to 8 Indian gas stations in Texas. And so when you're going through the records in your own state, looking for the same things Nick Shirley and Dave were looking for, people are starting to pop things up from Ohio and from Washington State and now from Texas. And so I hope people are kind of getting the bigger picture here that this is probably happening to some degree in every state. Well, Joe Pax, thanks for coming on during the holiday season here. I really appreciate you sharing your big name on the Little James Show. Thank you very much. Big fan down here. All right, coming up next on the James Show, we keep going through fraud after fraud after fraud after fraud. The next one, are we going to go to war with Venezuela or are we going to go to war with Iran? In fact, I think the next question should be, which one are we going to bomb next? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right, so there's some new twist in the Somali fraud storyline coming out of Minnesota. I'm James Parker on The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Last night on Donald Trump Jr.'s Rumble show, he does a streaming show. It's called Triggered, and his guest was Nick Shirley. And in this 1 minute clip, he talks about some safety security concerns that he's had since he released the video on December 26th.
They're so mad. The Somalians are so mad because can you imagine? For years, you're at the dinner table talking with your family about how everything's good. Oh, we don't need to worry because the government and whatnot. I mean, 81% of these people are on welfare, but on top of that, they're collecting millions of dollars for these companies. Tax exempt, by the way, especially the daycares. So can you imagine how mad they are now? Like, that's why they're right now, there's like people are so upset. Like there's like bounties on me here in Minnesota because people are so upset as far as the fraud that's being exposed because they know their time's up and they know everyone's just sick and tired of this happening inside their own state and across America.
What have some of those threats been?
Yeah, there was apparently like a bolo that they used. That's the word that some people told me was on me. And
Bolo, B-O-L-O, be on the lookout.
I can't reveal too much just because I don't want to reveal. But like, yeah, lots of messages, death threats, obviously on social media. And then it's just not the most safe thing for me to be moving around freely right now.
I think that's fair. I mean,
all right. So a lot of people are saying, well, this must be racism. That's the only reason you would want illegal criminals from other countries to be punished for their crimes. Well, here, let me give you a counter example. Here in Texas, we just have 3 illegal aliens get busted for a 14 million gift card cloning scheme. And so in this massive fraud, we would like them all arrested, charged with crimes, thrown in prison for as long as possible. When they get out of prison, send them back to the country from whence they came, never to return again. But this isn't going to get a whole lot of attention because it makes us look good. These guys are Latvian. Therefore, they're white people. Oh, my God. And if the outside world saw that, we don't care what color you are. If you're a foreigner that comes here and steals from us and sets up a fraud scheme, we want you punished.
Estimated $14 million worth of fraud was committed by these 3 suspects. Christians Petrovskis, Romuns Tisobrits, Normuns Olavikas were arrested for shoplifting and cloning gift cards.
Oh, my God. Are those the whitest names you've ever heard? Like that's Latvia, for one of the Baltic states up there, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania over there. So kind of half Russian, kind of half like nondescript white guy names. Like the only name whiter than these 3 guys is probably, ironically, Colin Kaepernick. I think that's the whitest American name that we have. I think the whitest name in England would be Graham Wellington. But all right, I'm out of jokes. Aaron in Plano, you're on WBAP.
Howdy, James. Was perusing the interwebs, and somebody had posted that they went to go get the same information from Minnesota's public records departments that Nick Shirley and his assistant were able to obtain, and the site is down.
Oh, well, see, Aaron, websites go down every day. Why would you think there's something untoward about that?
Well, it's just the timing is everything.
No, I think you're racist. I think that's probably the most likely scenario, Aaron.
Yeah.
That's what explains it the best.
Yeah. What else could it be?
Yeah, we just hate blacks. We don't care about fraud. We don't care about our taxpayer money being stolen or inflation or any of that. We just hate black people. That's all. Yeah. All right.
Hate has a home here,
Dude, the other one I saw about the sort of Orwellian 1984 scrubbing of the internet is that there was a lady she's in Congress now, and she got a big PPP loan for her business, and she was wearing a ring on her right hand in one of these pictures where she has her arms crossed and she's kind of looking up and to the left, very aspirational looking. Someone pointed out that ring cost $100,000. And so she went back and her team photoshopped the ring out of the picture and put the picture back up. And
I think she's under investigation or indictment.
Yeah, for the PPP fraud. But Aaron, do people realize, like in 1984? Did you ever read 1984 or see the movie or anything? Yeah. So the main character, for those of you who haven't, who aren't as educated as Aaron in Plano, the main character, his name is Winston.
As racist as
yeah, as racist as Aaron in Plano. But the main character, his name's Winston Smith, and his job for the government is to literally go back and change the record of history in newspapers and in magazines. And I guess they didn't imagine websites back then, but to go back and change photos or change articles. So when the current facts do not match the existing narrative, you go change the facts, not the narrative.
And I enjoy the show.
Love it. All right. Aaron in Plano knocking it out of the park. So, yes, for those of you who were listening earlier today, I did an interesting rundown on how what we're experiencing right now in America is a lot like what many empires that have risen and fallen have gone through. There seems to be a pattern with societies and empires and giant successful golden ages in the times where they rise up versus the times when they decline. And they make the same mistakes, all of them. We're doing the same thing in America. And if we only had a better understanding of history, if we only had a real education system, and I mean one that teaches you the Roman Empire, not that men can have babies, maybe we would vote a little bit different in this country. But you'll hear it next. There's going to be a rundown from John Stossel. I'm going to play this at I think 4:05. There's going to be a rundown from John Stossel, and then I'm going to follow that up with some notes on how that overlaps just beautifully, or really tragically, with a bunch of the headlines that are in the news right now. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, though, we got to talk about the prospect of war with Venezuela and or Iran. Who's going to get bombed first? I'm James Parker on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Are we going to war with Venezuela? Are we going to war with Iran? Both seem to be on the table. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. And if you're saying, James, where did all this Iran talk come from? Well, Trump said this was yesterday. Iran has been behaving badly, and if they don't stop it, they're going to get themselves another bombing.
How close are we to another war with Iran?
Well, I don't want to say that, but Iran may
Hang on.
be...
You notice already a flaw in the question. How close are we to another war with Iran? We ever been at war with Iran before? Just wanted to point that out.
How close are we to another war with Iran?
Well, I don't want to say that, but Iran may be behaving badly. It hasn't been confirmed, but if it's confirmed, look, they know the consequences. Consequences will be very powerful. Maybe more powerful than the last time. Yeah. And Iran should have made a deal the last time. I gave them the option. I said, you can make a deal. Do it. I told them, do it. And they didn't believe me. Now they believe me.
Do you have evidence that Iran is behaving badly, and what do you mean by that?
This is just what we hear. But usually where there's smoke, there's fire. Have you heard the expression?
What do you mean related to the nuclear capabilities?
Well, no, I'm hearing that they're not nuclear yet, but maybe nuclear too. The sites were obliterated, but they're looking at other sites. That's what I've heard. They're looking. So it'll take a long time. They're not going to go back to where they were, but they have other places they can go. And if they're doing that, they're making a big mistake. Yeah, please. There's no reason for them to do it.
Okay, so I foresee that if the news cycle continues to pummel the media's preferred narrative, they're going to jump on this. They could jump on this in the next day or two because it is kind of a scary thing, and we saw them do it this summer. Now, I want you to go back and I want you to rewind in your head back to when it was 1,000 degrees outside, and we bombed the dog snot out of Iran one night, knocking out their nuclear capabilities. You also may remember for the next 48 hours, the news cycle was absolutely hyperbolic. It was apocalyptic. It was a volcano of fear. We're about to start World War III. Your sons and daughters are going to be drafted. They're going to be conscripted to fight Trump's holy war or whatever the heck. And pretty much since then, it's been a de facto ceasefire. Since then, I don't know what behaving badly means, but I know I haven't seen any stories about them lobbing missiles at Israel like they were doing before the bombing. I haven't heard of them financing another October 7th and helping them with the logistics and the supplies and the resources for another massacre like October 7th since then. So when you just peruse the headlines, it looks like the hyperbolic reporting that came in June after the bombing that we were about to enter World War III was really the beginning of the most peaceful Iran has been in a long time. Like, not only did they get the news wrong, their predictions slightly wrong, it was 180 degrees from the truth. And I think the lesson there is not that the media is just a bunch of lying hacks. We already knew that. The lesson is Iran is a paper tiger. Iran can run their mouth, but there's no way they want to go to war with us. It's not like we're going to put boots on the ground and we're going to invade it and we're going to occupy it for 25 years like we did Afghanistan. But that's not what the Ayatollahs are worried about. The Ayatollahs are worried about their own backside. Are they going to be able to stay in power or not? And that really is about the depth of their thinking on this. And it's a dastardly situation they're in. I don't know if you realize, because the media is not going to tell you, I don't know if you realize how bad the Iranian government is. And I don't mean the terrible people that are running it, because you can take any system of governance, put terrible people in charge, and get awful results. But Iran is a terrible combination of statecraft that is half theocracy, half socialism. And I can't hardly think of a way that you can oppress yourself even harder than that. The only governing structure that we've discovered that's still on planet Earth right now that's worse than that is in North Korea, where they have theocratic communism. You don't think of North Korea as a theocracy, but literally the head of state is the current guy's grandfather, Kim Il-sung or whatever, that died years ago when I think about the time I was born, and then Kim Jong-il took over, and now it's the next one, Kim Il Sung. I forgot the names of all of them, but it's technically the grandfather is still in charge, and the grandson that's there now is just kind of holding the gavel in his grandfather's stead. So it is a theocracy, but it's even worse than socialist. It's a communist theocracy. But Iran, those poor people over there, the Persians, the other people of Iran that I'm not nearly as familiar with as I am the Persians, what a glorious people with a glorious history going back thousands of years. They're in the Bible. They're in the Bible as heroes, by the way. They're in the movie 300. I mean, they have a long, rich history of being innovative, of being centers of knowledge and learning. In fact, they were at the tip top competing with the entire world when it comes to innovations and patents and advancements in science and universities. And people used to vacation there. It was the greatest place probably in the Middle East, except for maybe Israel. Until what? Until Islam took over. And it has been one of the worst places to live ever since. And man, flipping over that country, that's kind of like, it almost feels like Venezuela. It's not that we want to put boots on the ground, but we do want regime change. And it may not take much. It may just take knocking a few oil tankers offline and parking them in Galveston, bombing a few boats to topple that whole regime because it's barely hanging on by a thread. But what a glorious thing it would be. I don't know if this would qualify for the Nobel Peace Prize, but if you can squeeze these Ayatollahs and somehow knock them out of power, and we could see what Iran would look like, maybe, hopefully, it would continue on the course it was on before 1979. What a great country that could be. Go back and look. You have the internet. Look on your phone or when you get a chance. Go look up photographs of Iran in the 70s. All the women didn't have to wear hijabs. They didn't have to wear the headscarf. They didn't have to walk around dressed like a ninja. They were wearing bikinis at the beach. The dudes were wearing business suits. So, no, I hope we don't have war. I don't think we're going to have war with Iran. But I think we might see some more bombings before this is all done. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next on The James Show, how often does your husband think about Rome? More than you think. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. How often does your husband think about Rome? It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. And I'm sorry if you were listening to the Casey Bartholomew shift earlier and you heard me talk about this, but I'm going to add some things to it because I'm going to have 4 more minutes on this segment than I had when I did it this morning, so I'll get to expand on this a little bit longer. But it's more often than you think, ladies. I remember when we were doing the pre-Christmas episode last week, I was telling all the wives out in North Texas, here's what your husband really wants for Christmas. I know you can't afford it, and that's okay. You might not have the acreage to make use of it. But if conditions were perfect, your husband really for Christmas would like a tank. And I know that sounds stupid, but that's how guys think. Trina, wouldn't you like to have a tank? Wouldn't that be sweet? Yeah. Garrett's, both of you, you'd probably like to have a tank over there. Dude, a tank would be awesome. Even if I didn't get to shoot it, it would be awesome. And I had wives send me emails and messages. They're like, James, this is so funny. I heard your show. And then I asked my husband if he wanted a tank for Christmas, and he was like, "Oh, really? Like what kind? Like would it run on diesel?" And I was kidding, but he was taking me serious. I had no idea my husband really wanted a tank. Well, here's another secret of men: we think about the Roman Empire all the time. John Stossel did a report on it a week ago with some historian, Johann Norberg.
Historian Johann Norberg says we can learn from the rise and fall of golden ages like ancient Athens, Rome, the Renaissance, and the one America's founders helped start.
Oppression and poverty was the rule throughout history. What sets golden ages apart is that for a period of time, they managed to lift themselves above that and give more people more freedoms.
The Romans did that, creating
a huge empire extending from Britain to North Africa, from the Atlantic Ocean to the Black Sea.
Strangely, looking at social media, this is something today's American men think about a lot.
How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
At least twice a day.
What?
There are all these videos where women are surprised how often the guys in their lives think about ancient Rome. Rome's republic inspired our form of government.
There's a reason why we have a Senate and they meet in the capital. We borrow those ideas from the Romans.
But then Rome, too, fell.
Yes, and ever since we've thought about why that happened.
There were many reasons: disease, barbarian invaders, and something modern societies should worry about. You say entitlement spending played a big role.
Bread and circuses. The emperors wanted to become popular by handing out free stuff to people. Originally, this started small. You just handed the very poor means of subsistence, but it was popular. So the group that lived on the public's expense grew larger all the time. And emperors complained about this. Everyone from Caesar and onward said, oh, we've got to reform this system because it means that we have fewer people working and more people consuming. But no one succeeded. Instead, it was expanded all the time, became more and more costly.
Once people had their free bread, somebody who threatened to take that away was in trouble.
Romans could conquer the world, but they couldn't do entitlement reform.
It just reminds me of what I see in the West now. Even countries that are going broke, they can't raise the retirement age.
Once you have an ever-expanding system of entitlements that you can't afford, that's often the beginning of the decline and fall phase.
Ancient Rome did what modern societies do: mint more money. Actually, since they didn't have paper money, they devalued by putting less gold and silver in each coin.
In a way, inflation was much worse than barbarian invaders. And the solution that they come up with was counterproductive. The Emperor Diocletian, he blamed greedy businessmen for inflation, something that we hear today as well. So he imposed price controls on more than 1,000 goods. But obviously it all failed because prices kept rising and undermined the Roman Empire completely.
And countries that followed: Germany after World War I, more recently Venezuela, and Zimbabwe, where they print bills worth
$100 trillion. People would have to carry a bag of cash just to buy a loaf of bread.
Peak Human covers empire after empire that rose and fell. Listening to you, I would think we're toast, because every civilization gets comfortable and destroys itself. And I see evidence of that as I look around.
Do you like capitalism?
No, I have many critiques of capitalism.
One of the most worrying signs in history is you begin to take wealth and comfort for granted. It's just there, and give us more of it. And then you forget what made it possible to begin with. But that doesn't mean that we're doomed. That's a lesson of history as well, that there's so many instances where societies have faced terrible situations and problems, but they bounced back. And that's very much dependent on what they decided to do. It's not automatic, this sort of decline and fall phase. You can unleash new waves of innovation and of progress. So there is still time. We can still save this golden age.
All right. So that was John Stossel with Johan Norberg. And I thought that was cute at the beginning. They were showing how a lot of wives were surprised when they find out how much their husbands think about Rome. That guy was like, twice a day. Yeah, that sounds about right. But I don't know if you've picked up from the exposition there, but we are doing a lot of the same things. You know, Rome didn't have entitlement programs when it was on its way up, when it was building its empire, when it was taking over first the Italian peninsula and then Hispaniola and then Gaul and whatnot. They didn't start that until later. They didn't start that until after, you know, they were close to their peak, and then they continued it on the way down, on the decline. We're doing the same thing. We did not have welfare and entitlement programs in the 1700s, Declaration of Independence, Constitution, 1800s. We didn't start with any of that until, what, Social Security in the 30s? Then we added on Medicare and Medicaid and food stamps in the 60s. Now we got an entitlement for damn near everything, whether it's public housing, whether it's these daycare centers or these autism centers or these home health care networks, just all the things the Somalis are ripping off. Isn't that perfect in the headlines right now? Did you even know we had all these silly entitlement programs creating dependency? You saw the dependency this year in 2025. Remember the great food stamp crash out in November? But we're also doing the inflation, the debasement of the currency, to where as the years go on, your dollar buys less and less. Diocletian did the price controls on thousands of items. Who proposes price controls? Who's proposing rent control right now? Who proposed price controls on gasoline in the 70s? Who wants to do price controls on various things now? Another thing that was a problem for the Roman Empire that didn't get mentioned in that clip. I mean, it did in the longer unedited version, but I only played you 4 minutes of the whole show. But mass immigration without assimilation was a problem. Rome was not sacked for 800 years. And then in 410, 411, Alaric and the Goths showed up. Now, what were they doing in Rome? Well, they lived there. They just didn't consider themselves Romans because they moved there in mass numbers. The Roman authorities looked the other way. They did not assimilate, and so they had an opposing invading force within their own borders. It wasn't that hard to knock over Rome. When you show up, 2/3 of the people are on the dole. They can't even feed themselves, much less swing a sword. But yeah, you have the Somali fraud, the PPP fraud, Medicare, Medicaid, home health care fraud, all these things. It's exactly what we're doing right now. And the most important sentence that man said was Romans could conquer the world, but not entitlement programs. Now, lefties will say, well, yeah, but military played a big role in their fiscal problems. Well, yeah, but Romans had military spending for centuries before entitlements came along, and they didn't crash their currency. So, no, it's not military spending that's going to crash your currency. It's military spending plus all this entitlement spending. But if you learn your lesson, you know what's going to be coming next if we're going to keep making the same mistakes. And one of the big mistakes is I even hear people on Team Red saying this. One of the things Rome did that they turned out to regret, that turned out to contribute to their downfall, is they were letting foreigners into the country en masse in exchange for military service. Why? The Romans didn't want to fight anymore. The Romans were wusses. They wanted to sit home, collect their dole, eat their wheat, go to their bathhouse. And they didn't want to fight anymore. They weren't a fighting people. Ugh, weapons of war, gross. And so they got the foreigners to do it for them in exchange for citizenship. Come fight in our military. Before long, most of the Roman military wasn't even Roman anymore. How do you think that worked out for them? There's no more Romans. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm going to continue with another similarity that Romans did with Americans with their currency coming up next on the James Show, and it has to do with what we put on our currency. That's next on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Yeah. I guess Trina likes AC/DC over there. Hang on, give me about a minute here. We're going to give you an economic update with Dan Veroni. But let me finish my thoughts here on the overlap and the similarities that modern America has with the Roman Empire. And one thing that I saw in one article one time many years ago that I saved, and I pretty much just memorized it because I've gone over it so much on the James Show over the years, but I haven't really heard this anywhere else, is what we've done with our money. Now you may think, oh yeah, inflation. You just talked about that in the last segment. Yeah. The inflation, we are doing that. The Romans did that. They debased their currency to where it was basically worth nothing and you needed $1 bazillion to go buy a loaf of bread, just like all these other countries do. I got it. We're headed down the same road, fiat currency instead of the gold standard. I got it. But there's something else. When the Roman Republic was a thing, before the empire rolled around, before we had the age of emperors roll around, they didn't put human beings on their money. We didn't either in the United States. Go look at the first 10 coins we minted as a country. Do they have any human beings on it? And by human beings, I mean actual living human beings representing an actual human that existed. What you will see on it is Lady Liberty, who I guess is in the shape and image of a human being, but it's not like a real person. It's an ethereal concept. We had the Justice Lady, the lady, blindfolded lady holding the scales. That's not a real person. One of them represents the concept of freedom. The other one represents the concept of justice. We had all kinds of other things on there. We had like eagles and like a little shield, had flag, all kinds of other iconography. But we weren't promoting people. We weren't promoting politicians. We weren't promoting emperors or presidents. We were promoting the ideology that this country is founded upon. We didn't use the money for political propaganda. We used the money to push philosophy a little deeper, a little more thoughtful, a little more thought-provoking. Every time people got out their money, they didn't celebrate someone that won an election. They were celebrating the concepts that made this country what it is. And then eventually the Romans started putting their emperors on the coinage and then never looked back. We did the same thing. We didn't used to put presidents, and Alexander Hamilton and Ben Franklin, non-presidents. We didn't used to put human beings that actually existed on our money. We started off with the concepts. Somewhere along the line, we made the same mistake and made the same cultural oopsie that the Romans made. And I bet you never heard that before. All right, my next guest, Dan Veroni, economic strategist, founder and CEO of Potomac Core. Welcome to the James Show. I want to talk a little bit about the economy because I see some people doing these reports where they talk about how the economy's bad. But when I go through it and listen to all 3 minutes of the segment on CNN or the local TV stations here, Dan, they don't talk about how the stock market's at record all-time highs. They don't talk about how unemployment is below average, doing pretty good right now. They don't talk about how GDP growth is above 4% for the first time in a long time if you get out the COVID convulsions. And what would you say, Dan? Are you more pessimistic or optimistic about the economy? Well, Dan Veroni, yeah. So I'll play devil's advocate here. There's still some people that are concerned that all these tariff and trade deals are not worked out. There's still some countries that are eating big tariffs. It's crushing our whiskey exports, and a few other certain industries are feeling the heat. What do you say to those skeptics? Well, Dan, you do a lot of consulting for a small businessman trying to make the next step. Do you think 2026 is going to be a good chance for expansion of our small businesses? Yep. All right. Well, Dan Veroni, I love that optimism. If you want to pick up his book, Reimagining Industry Growth, go to potomaccore.com. And if you're a small businessman, I hope you expand wildly in 2026. Coming up next on The James Show, I do not trust Disney adults. I'll explain myself next on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. I do not trust Disney adults. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. First, before we delve into this, let me explain my definition of a Disney adult, because there's a lot of adults that go to Disney that I have no problem with. If you have kids and you're accompanying them to Disney, that's the most normal thing in the world. I am not suspicious of you at all. You do not count as a Disney adult. But there's a group of adults that go to Disney. They don't have kids. And they're not going to go drink or because they're really into roller coasters. They're going because they're just gigantic children. It seems to be at least a partial arrested development symptom, in my view. You want to go to Disney and you want to wait in a line for an hour to take a picture with a guy in a Mickey Mouse costume or a Donald Duck costume or, I don't know, Woody from Toy Story. And so you're like, well, I mean, how many of those people could it possibly be? Well, I didn't think it was that bad because I've never been to Disneyland or Disney World. I just grew up poor and now I don't care. But check out the numbers. I just saw this floating on my feed and I immediately had to save it and play it for you.
These might actually be the most unstable people in America. And we have a lot of categories to choose from. Disney adults. Listen to this stat. 42% of people in line to meet Buzz Lightyear at Disney theme parks last year were childless adults. That's insane. 42% of the people online, though they probably make up about 80% of the body mass online, they make up almost half of the lines. These are grown adults waiting online, not for rides, which I could actually understand. This is to meet a hungover college student dressed up in what is essentially a furry costume. This is like being an adult and going to the jungle gym without a kid. Would you not find that so bizarre? Would you not call the police if you saw that? Oh my God, how did this become socially acceptable?
What the heck? 42% of the people waiting in line to have their picture taken with Buzz Lightyear were adults, childless adults. I had no idea it was that bad. I had no idea. There's a whole class of people here. And, you know, I don't try and make everything political. Let's just stick with the baseline arrested development thing we've all observed here. But government does kind of nudge this along and fertilize this weed. Because think about all of the policy changes that have happened during your lifetime. Don't all of them sort of accommodate an arrested development, a delayed, maybe even an eternal adolescence here? Because it used to be that you could get your driver's license at 14 in Texas. My dad, he grew up in Texas. He got his driver's license at 14. They eventually moved that up to 16. They try and move it up to 18. You could buy beer when you were 18 in Texas back in the day. Heck, when I was in high school, my last senior year of high school and freshman year of college, you could still buy beer when you were 18 in Louisiana. We used to go across the border, go to a bar when we were 18. It was awesome. But then they started relaxing all these rules, and now you can stay on your parents' health insurance until you're 26, and you can get all kinds of handouts and goodies, and they seem to want to keep you in the state of eternal adolescence. And some people are just more than happy to accommodate that. You know, they tell you that, no, you don't want to get married and have a baby and be an old fuddy-duddy. That's what old people do. You want to be young and hip and childless and cool and go to the club and hook up. And look, going to the club and hooking up and being promiscuous and whatever, that's great when you're 22. I mean, I'm not encouraging that. I don't want to tell people they got to go sin, but it's not anything abnormal or weird. It's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be out meeting people, trying things out, sort of taking, people for a spousal test drive. But you're not supposed to be doing that in your 40s, going to the club, hanging out, going to Sunday brunch. So yeah, this Disney adult thing, this is really weird. Because I had a guy I used to work with who definitely had some sort of mental conditions. It was all benevolent. He wasn't going to harm anybody or himself. But he had some arrested development issues because when he lived by himself, it looked just like your apartment did when you were 20. Well, this applies to guys. Remember how your apartment was a wreck? I would go to his house and he never did his own dishes. For a long time, he didn't have a trash can. Why? Because, well, he just moved into a new place and he didn't have a trash can. And so he just threw his trash into this Bud Light case that was empty, and that was his trash can. Or there would be a grocery bag hanging on the doorknob of his kitchen. He didn't have a toaster the whole time I knew him. But he was stuck in this sort of childlike part of him, just never grew up. And it was kind of fun. I mean, like I said, it was benevolent. It's not like he was hurting anybody. But Disney adults, I do not trust you. Why on earth would you be excited about a picture of a cartoon character it's not even the real cartoon character. It's a dude in a suit. You're going to fly halfway across a continent to go stand in line for an hour when it's 100 degrees just for that picture? Is that what you should be doing if you're a fully adjusted adult? Shouldn't you be, I don't know, maybe dating and courting and starting a family and going to work and building some wealth and putting some money away for retirement and maybe buying a house and building some equity and, I don't know, maybe having a hobby, maybe a little woodworking, maybe lift some weights? Have you seen these people? They look like Winnie the Pooh. Wait, Winnie the Pooh's not Disney, is he? Nah, he's something else. I don't know. 800-288-9227. If you're a Disney adult, call in and explain yourself. How do you think this is not weird? Because I liked her analogy. This is like seeing adults at the playground without any kids. Like, what are you doing here? That is not right. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Do you trust Disney adults? It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. I've never been to Disney World or Disneyland, so I haven't seen this with my own eyes. But I have known people, I've worked with people that were adults that would go to Disney on their own. This guy I used to work with, he was a news guy. He was taking some time off. It's like, hey, what are you doing on your vacation? You're going to be gone for a week. He said, I'm going to Disney World. I said, I didn't know you had kids. He goes, I don't. I was like, oh, you going with your girlfriend? He said, no. What are you just going by? You meeting people there? You meeting your nieces and nephews? No. Jeremy was just going by himself. Why? He likes Disney World. I thought that was weird, but hey, understandable. Maybe you want to ride roller coasters. I can see how that'd be fun. Maybe you want to go to Disney Springs and get drunk at Epcot, or I really don't know what goes on there, but there's enough adult-related stuff. But this viral video of this girl that explained 42% of people waiting in line to get their picture taken with Buzz Lightyear are childless adults, that threw me off. Big time.
These might actually be the most unstable people in America. And we have a lot of categories to choose from. Disney adults. Listen to this stat. 42% of people in line to meet Buzz Lightyear at Disney theme parks last year were childless adults.
What? This is David and Whitney. You're on WBAP. Hey, David.
Hey, how you doing? Listen, I'm a 60-year-old single male, and on my bucket list, I have going to Disney World as one of the things to do. And it's not to get a picture with Buzz Lightyear. I could care less about Buzz Lightyear. It's to ride the rides. It's to go to, Epcot Center. It's to maybe check out some of their campgrounds. And there's so much to do there. So, it isn't just about the kids. It's about, it's kind of like about reliving a little bit of your childhood. But I'm going.
Are you sure you're not a Disney adult, David? Do you have kids?
I've never been. I've been to Disneyland like 8 times, you know what I mean? But I've never been to Disney World.
David, do you have children?
No.
You never had children?
Nope. I'm gonna go. I'll take a friend or something, but I am definitely gonna go. And it's, like I said, it's not about getting a picture with Buzz Lightyear. It's about a lot more. Well, there's a lot to discover there.
Well, I'm not saying, and I was trying to make this clear. Not every adult that goes to Disney World by themselves is what I would call a Disney adult. If you want to go there, do adult things, you want to get drunk, you want to ride rides, you want to go see the world at Epcot Center. Yeah, the rides. That's fine. Yeah. Then you don't concern me. You're into roller coasters. I have other adult friends that are into roller coasters. They're in a roller coaster group that goes around and in fact, I'll let you know who they are if that's your bag and you want to go to roller coaster tours. My friend Brandon does that. I mean, it is. Yeah. Or do you know Brandon? Is that what's going on? Okay. So, but
I am Brandon.
No, you're David and Whitney. But
but I'm just like him, so to speak.
Good. Because that doesn't bother me. It's these people that dress in costume. It's these people that wait in line to see Buzz Lightyear. It's the people that act like children. They don't act like adults in that situation.
Right.
That kind of freaks me out because.
Yeah, me too. I'm wondering.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, you kind of get that hint about people that turn out to be pedophiles in some of these instances. Like, like when you found out the guy from the Wiggles may have been into children, it's like, yeah, I can see what musician would want to spend his year on tour singing children's songs, wacky little wheels on the bus go round and around. That sounds like my absolute nightmare of a life. But if you're into kids, that's pretty awesome. That'll put you in close proximity. Like all these nasty teachers. Being a teacher and having to deal with snot-nosed elementary kids and middle school kids and high school kids for the entirety of the day sounds like an absolute nightmare to me. Pedophiles run to that. They want to be youth counselors. They want to be Boy Scout leaders. They want to be teachers and all this stuff that puts them into close proximity with kids. To me, that sounds like just an absolute waste of a weekend. But hey, look, David, not judging you. You sound like you're on the right side of this equation. So I hope I got to clear that up because I don't want to step on anyone's toes here. Go to Disney. Have fun. Just don't act like a child. So many of the problems that we have, so many of the complaints that the just grievances I'm always barfing out on the James Show are because adults are acting like children. Oh, how am I going to get to work without public transportation? Well, be an adult and drive yourself. That's what adults do. Children ride the bus. Adults drive cars. Oh, James, I don't know how I'm going to pay my rent. Well, adults pay their rent. I don't know how I'm going to pay for my health care. Adults pay for their health care. They pay for the health care of their children. You know what they do? They feed their children, even in the summer when you're getting free lunches from the school. And in the summertime, if you're not getting free lunches anymore, we don't expect other adults to pull up and hand your kid food. You do that. That's what adults do. Adults feed their children. Adults give their children rides. They give themselves rides. They pay for their own crap. All right, Disney adults, I got my eye on you. Y'all have really freaked me out too much. That's going to about do it for the James Show. Stick around next. Coming up, Mark Levin. Then after that, Joe Pags, who you heard earlier on the James Show. I think I might have to go back and pull that out and put it up on YouTube or something. But go find us, Facebook, YouTube, X, anywhere on social media. Look up James Parker Show, WBAP. We got all kinds of good stuff up there, and every follow, share, like, that all helps immensely. So thank you in advance. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.